mistress and host, Jess Bryant. And with me, as usual, is my friend of yours, Ben Scaria.
Hey, folks. Ben. Hey, everybody.
How's it going, friend?
It's going well. It's going well, you know. Ready to get creeped out. Ready to get freaky in the new year. This is our first one of the new year.
Yeah, our first one of the new year. How was your holidays? How were your holidays? How was your new year?
It was great. It wasn't spooky at all, but it was great, which I think is probably a good thing, I guess. You know, but yeah, no complaints. No complaints. I'm going to put my hood down. There you go.
Okay.
It was good. It was good. How about yourself?
Yeah, it was real good. Hi, I'm Lev. Yeah, it was good. Last year I quit a terrible job. And so now I'm doing different things, and that's good.
Hell yeah.
And creepy New Year to you, Booth Wellington. Appreciate that. Yeah. Not creepy at all, but good, you know?
Yeah. No, I feel like for the most part, that's probably what you want.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you don't really want to get creepy, start the new year out like on a creepy note.
Right.
That's why we held off. That's why we held off for a couple of weeks. We were like, ease into the year, and then we'll get creepy with it.
Yep, definitely. So I have a question for you, Ben.
Yeah.
Are you a big science nerd type person?
Yes and no. I suppose, yeah, like theoretical science, absolutely. I love to like sit around and talk about wormholes and what's on the other side of that shit and all that stuff. But in terms of like, do I do science? No, I do not.
I feel like most people don't do science, right?
Yeah, but if we really start getting too technical, I'm like, you kind of lost me. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you know, I like it, but I have a layman's understanding of it.
All right. I've always loved like space and space science and that kind of stuff. I like loved Contact, the movie, the Jodie Foster and Matthew McConaughey movie.
Great movie.
Oh, love that movie. Like, I would say like 3 out of my top 10 favorite movies are about like space, like theoretical space stuff.
I will say I really liked Arrival a lot.
Yes.
A lot.
Yeah, and Interstellar was another one that I really liked.
I liked parts of Interstellar, but I didn't like I don't know. I thought all the weird science stuff was cool. I thought the relationship stuff in that movie is weird, which is not what this is about at all. So great.
That's all right. What about y'all in the chat? Oh goodness, we're up to 8. How exciting! Hello, all 8 of you.
Yeah, what's up, everybody?
Yeah. Are you a science person? Were you into sciencey stuff? Because today, the Midnight Creepout is taking a little bit of a different tack. Because our topic tonight is based in theoretical quantum physics.
Nobody freak out. Nobody freak out. We're still gonna be creepy.
So tonight we're talking about multiverse theory. Ben, do you know anything about multiverse theory already?
Only that's a theory that there are multiverses. Like multiple universes besides our own, right? Like each one consisting of sort of their own, like we're all on the same timeline, but like on different sort of planes, if you will. I don't know.
Ooh. So yeah, that actually is. I wasn't gonna get into that, but that is actually one of the theories that there's several. Like we're not gonna get into that, but
yeah, because it would be like 8-dimensional too. It's like they could be over here, or they could be down here, or wherever. Who knows? Because time's
kind of yeah. So now you're getting into a little bit of string theory stuff, but yes, I agree with you. I agree with you, Booth Wellington. My favorite poems are also multiverse. Also, so yes, the multiverse, and not to be confused with the Marvel Cinematic Multiverse. Would you say, Ben, that you are comforted or kind of disturbed by the thought of parallel universes?
I guess I'm comforted by it because, well, I comforted, or it doesn't affect me. I feel like my day to day, so it doesn't comfort or freak me out. I guess it comforts me that there's a parallel universe where another me is fucking, doing exactly what he wanted to do and like crushing it and doing whatever. And that's pretty cool. And then there's one where like I, have no legs and like, I don't know. I don't know why I said that.
True.
Like that's.
Yeah, that would be true. Oh no, I did that
like,
thing where I lean forward and my camera can't handle it. Come back to me.
But I don't feel like it affects my day to day really. So it doesn't, it's just a cool thing to think about.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, well, so this stuff can get real heady real fast. I'm gonna do my best to make it accessible. Because I totally hear you that like at a certain point, it's like, and you lost me. Like as I was doing research for this, there were several times where I'd like back up a video and like listen to it again and then do it like another time just to make sure I actually got it. So first of all, what is multiverse theory? Multiverse theory suggests that the universe that we observe is not the only one that exists, that there might be several or even infinite other universes existing in the same four-dimensional fabric of time and space.
Yeah.
But we're currently unable to observe them. So these other universes are called parallel or alternate universes. Grace is already upset. Sorry, Grace. That was fast. And multiverse theory is sometimes referred to as the many worlds theory. There are several different types of theoretical universes, which you kind of touched on for a second there, defined by various physicists, but we're not going to dive that deep. We're going to do a very surface dive of what we're doing. Yes. Excellent, Grace. That's what we're going for. Perfect. So some of these multiple universes, if they exist, right, might hold life similar to ours, or they might have laws of physics that differ so much from our own that we wouldn't even recognize them. There may be infinite universes in which infinite versions of us exist, and everything that could possibly happen does happen in some universe. So just like you were saying, in one universe, you're like rubbing elbows with like, Seth Rogen and Leonardo DiCaprio, and in another one, you were born, in not a great place, and you are quadriplegic, and
I hate saying this because A, it's a cartoon, and B, its fans are toxic. But Rick and Morty, right, is a lot of like multiverse stuff, right?
Yeah.
Like that's it, right? Like they fuck with that. That's their whole thing.
Oh no.
What?
Booth had a recurring nightmare as a child where he went to a parallel world where everyone he knew was a monster trying to eat me.
Oh no, and that world exists.
I hate to tell you this, Spoof.
That world exists. So
I've often had this thought myself, Grace. Indeed. Hello, Spoof. Hello, Rachel. Hey, everybody.
Hi.
Oh, hi. Oh, oh yeah. Sorry, I'm a little lot. So support for multiverse theory varies. Some scientists think that it solves multiple mathematical problems of physics, but others think it isn't a practical scientific theory because it's largely unobservable. We'll talk a little bit more about that later. So where the hell did this come from, right? Why do scientists think multiple universes might exist? This is where it starts to get crazy. So like I said, I'm going to do my best. Unfortunately, I have some videos to share that hopefully will break things down a little better than I would be able to. So we'll have like a basic understanding of physics, right? Like if you throw a ball, you can use math to figure out where it's going to fall based on a number of variables, right? And the outcome is always predictable. So a certain force over time, accounting for gravity and resistance, etc., it's always going to equal X. It's entirely predictable. As long as we have the numbers and variables, we can plug it into equation and we know what's going to happen. But on the quantum scale, that entirely falls apart. And by that, I mean, so quantum physics is the study of like the very, very small parts of the universe.
Yeah.
Right.
I've seen Ant-Man.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yes, Ant-Man, exactly. Yes. So, I think most of us are familiar with like atoms, right? Are made up of like protons and electrons and neutrons. But then even smaller than that, there's like quarks and all this crazy shit, right? And on, once you get down to like 10 to the negative 36, psi, like millimeters or whatever, all of this like predictability just completely falls to the wayside. There stops being one predictable outcome and instead two or more outcomes that each have a certain statistical probability of occurring. So, for example, we know that if you throw a ball up, it will fall down. But if a quantum ball existed, there could be a 50% chance that it will fall down and a 50% chance that it will keep right on going. And while that quantum ball's outcome is unobserved, it's in a superposition, both falling down and continuing up at the same time.
Yeah.
That's the thing about quantum physics that gets really, really crazy, is that the behavior of quantum particles changes depending on whether or not we're observing it. And that to me is why this qualifies for the Midnight Creep Out. Because I'm sorry, what? What? So there are two
Yeah,
experiments.
that hurts my brain. No, that hurts my brain to think about that way.
Right? So there are two experiments that demonstrate this really well. So one is the Schrodinger's cat thought experiment. And I would like to take this moment to acknowledge that the BBC just reported that Schrodinger was a pedophile, a disgusting human being. Apparently, he courted and tried to have relationships with like 12 and 14-year-olds. So that sucks. Big yikes. So fuck that guy. But and also apparently he didn't even come up with this thing himself. Like,
I mean, if he was in that box, he was
What?
both fucking and not fucking those kids at the same time. You don't know.
Yeah. Schrodinger's dick.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, so apparently he didn't even actually come up with this, and that like the math that he did, he was like, there's no way this is real, but like apparently it is. So here's a little video about Schrodinger's cat.
Be a YouTube channel without a cat video. So without further ado, we present Schrodinger's cat. I'm sure you've heard some version of this famous thought experiment. You put a cat in a bunker with some unstable gunpowder that has a 50% chance of blowing up in the next minute and a 50% chance of doing nothing. The gunpowder is Einstein's version. Schrodinger preferred poisonous gas. But whatever. So until we look in the bunker, we don't know whether the cat is dead or alive. And when we do look, it is either dead or alive. So if we repeat the experiment enough times with enough cats and bunkers and gunpowder, we'll see that half the time, Kitty survives, and half the time, Kitty goes bye-bye. The quantum mechanical interpretation is that before we look, the cat is in a superposition. It's both dead and alive. And our act of looking forces nature's decision. So our curiosity kills the cat. But what about the cat's perspective? Well, the cat either sees the gunpowder explode or not. So inside the bunker, we actually have these two possibilities. The powder explodes and the cat sees it explode, or the powder doesn't explode and the cat doesn't see it explode. There's no option, the powder explodes and the cat doesn't see it explode. So the cat's reality becomes entangled with the outcome of the experiment, and it's our observation of the experiment that forces nature to collapse to one option or the other. But we're like the cat too. Either the cat dies and we see it dead, or the cat lives and we see it alive. So who's observing us to force nature to collapse to one reality? Or do both possibilities happen in parallel within a larger multiverse? This collapsing to one reality problem is one of the biggest unanswered questions in quantum physics. So for Kitty's sake, can I has answer, please?
I love how you just...
What?
Okay.
So, yeah, please go ahead.
So this is a demonstration. Exactly, Grace. Who is observing us?
Wait, so that's my question. Before you go into
this,
that's my question. So, are they basically saying, since we are a finite thing, like we are alive, like we are doing this, we are only that because somebody is observing us, and if nobody was observing us, we would be in the super state of being both things and all things at once?
No. So the thing is that larger
We're all
objects, yeah, we're all dead. Larger objects like cats and like basketballs and humans generally don't fall victim to superposition because we're so big, right? But this is an example of what happens on the quantum level. So, you know, it's fucking crazy.
Hey, where are the kitties? Hey, abolish.
Where are the kitties? Hi, abolish the Senate. Yeah. So, right. So, you know, if you put the cat in the box with poisonous gas or whatever, that was Schrodinger's, and there's a 50% chance that it's going to go off and it's not. And we don't know what happened until we open the box. That means the cat is in a superposition of being both alive and dead at the same time. So where this, so that's theoretical, right? Obviously there's no cat that's either alive or dead at the same time. Like you'd be able to observe it other ways to know whether it was alive or dead. However, this becomes much more practical, like I said, on the quantum scale. So the second experiment that we're going to talk about is the single particle double slit experiment. The double slit experiment, which sounds something, sounds kind of like something the Marquis de Sade would have written.
It sounds a little dirty.
Yeah, right? Double slit.
The double slit experiment. I saw that
Abolish
movie.
the Senate asks, does the cat observe itself? Probably not, because cats do not recognize themselves in mirrors.
But no, it did say that the cat observes the gunpowder going off, or the cat doesn't, right? Like the cat.
The gunpowder, but the cat does not observe itself. It
No.
observes the gunpowder.
Yes.
Observing oneself requires a certain form of sentience, a certain level of sentience that most members of the animal kingdom do not have. So the single particle double slit experiment is based on Thomas Young's double slit experiment that had to do with photons. And this is how he proved that light was a wave and not a particle, right? So you would shine light through two very small double slits that were like right next to each other. And instead of them casting, you know, two small slits of light on the background behind that, it would actually be a long line of like dots, and they would be like big in the middle and then further out along the side. And that's because the light going through is not a particle, it's a wave. And,
Okay.
But we'll get into that. This will be demonstrated more. So this video that I found about the single particle double slit experiment, it was like, this guy's a little weird. However, it was definitely the shortest and most succinct video about this experiment that I could find. And it has to do with demonstrating that electrons exist in superposition and how our observation of them changes their behavior. So with no further ado, here we go.
Welcome to the Science Asylum. I am Nick Lucid. So I did some videos on quantum physics and it got some wheels turning. How do we make sense of all this stuff? I mean, the quick answer is we don't, but that's a little unsatisfying. Let's see. I think this is going to take more than one video, so let's start with some context. Trident 3B brings up the infamous double slit experiment, and he has some gripes with what it suggests about the behavior of particles, particularly how they seem to do different things.
Sorry, Grace. Nope, don't like this guy, she says. Rude.
Things when they're being watched. I actually had the same problems with this when I was first learning quantum physics, as I'm sure many others do. It sounds ridiculous. And most TV programs dumb it down so much that it's just wrong. Whoa, hold up. What's the double slit experiment? Oh right, I guess everyone's not familiar with this. This is a double slit. See the two openings? Okay, so basically, if you launch a bunch of balls at something like this, they hit the wall on the other side in a pattern like this. If you launch waves at it, the pattern on the wall looks like this, and it's called an interference pattern. Thomas Young used this kind of experiment in 1801 to show that light was a wave. Which brings us to the first problem. The size of visible light waves is on the order of tenths of micrometers. So the openings have to be small and close together for us to even notice this. Electron waves are on the order of tenths of nanometers. That's 1,000 times smaller than visible light, which means the slit device has to be 1,000 times smaller. It's also really hard to get electrons by themselves. Both these facts make this experiment incredibly impractical. That being said, in 2012, a physics team finally managed to actually do it. Their slits were 62 nanometers wide and were separated by 272 nanometers. Just to give you an idea how small that is, it looks more like this. Those bumps are atoms. Dude, get to the point. Okay. This experiment has some weird results. First, we try sending a beam of electrons at the slits, and we get this pattern at the detector. Voila! Electrons must be waves. No, that's just the electrons interfering with each other, right? There are a lot of electrons in that beam. Just send in one at a time. One electron at a time starts out looking pretty normal. But then after a while, we still get the interference pattern. That means a single electron interferes with itself, meaning it passes through both slits. What? No way! Put in a detector at the slits so we know which one it's going through. Okay, let's put in a bright light bulb. If even one photon from the bulb hits the electron, it'll bounce into a detector and we'll know. As you'd expect, each electron only passes through one slit at a time. Unfortunately, now the pattern looks like this, which says electrons are particles. That's just ridiculous. Okay, so this sounds crazy. If you send a beam of electrons through slits, electrons behave like waves. If you send single electrons through slits, electrons behave like waves. But only as long as you don't know which slit they went through. If you do, then they behave like particles. But what does it all mean? For that, you'll have to wait till the next video. Spoiler alert, it has nothing to do with you or me. So what kind of things do you have floating around in your mind vortex?
That guy was very creepy. So well done.
Thank you. Yeah. It definitely fits the vibe of the show. I don't know why he was yelling at us. I'm sorry. However, I just turned the volume down, says Grace. Listen, like I said, I know that it was a little weird, but it was definitely the most succinct version of things.
There was cool stuff going on.
Yeah. So, he summed it up pretty well, but basically if you send a beam of electrons, so multiple electrons all at the same time at the double slit experiment, they behave like a wave. They interfere with each other, creating that like wave interference pattern on the backboard. If you send them one at a time without observing them, they do the same thing. But if you set up something that tells us which slit they went through, now all of a sudden they behave like particles. And they no longer make that wave interference pattern on the back. What? Why? Why? Right? Fucking wild. We don't know
it's
why.
Crazy. We have no idea why. And all I can, like, my first thought, and I'm sure this is like crazy wrong, is basically because like we as humans trying to comprehend something almost speak a different computational language universally than the universe. Like so like when we don't have to actually like observe it and figure it out, the universe is speaking one way or it's doing something. But the second we try to observe it, the universe actually can't communicate it to us in that same way. So it's like, here's a way you'll understand. Like, does that make any kind of sense at all?
Yeah. So one of the videos that I watched was actually talking about how our brains are not evolved to understand this shit. This is all brand new, like literally less than 100 years old.
Yeah.
Thoughts. So like, the quantum physics period was like discovered or invented in like the 1920s. And then multiverse theory, I think, came along like maybe 40 years ago. So it's all pretty brand new. And our brains are just like, no, we're supposed to be like, our brains are still like in hunter-gatherer mode. We haven't even adapted to the world we live in, much less theoretical fucking physics. So that's bizarre.
Yes,
right?
thank you, abolishes Senate. Exactly. The way I think of it is our physical and logical intuition are based on our experiences at the macro level. The universe is not obligated to make sense to us at the lower levels. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the second we try to pull it to the macro level, it's like, fine, I'll fucking act the way that you expect me to act.
But it's like it was saying in the first one that like we're forcing it to make a choice, right?
Right, we're forcing it. That's the thing.
We're
Yeah,
forcing
exactly.
nature to show us one thing or the other, right?
Because that's like all we know in some ways.
Right. We're like forcing the physics to collapse, like the superposition. Because obviously the electron exists like on a wave, right? It's like, but as soon as you observe it, it has to be in one spot.
Correct, because we don't understand, like our brains actually can't comprehend that it's everywhere at once.
So this kind of shit, superposition, right, is one of the many mathematical quote unquote problems that would be solved by the existence of multiple other universes. Whenever a quantum particle changes its state, such as from a light to a wave, right, there's nothing in our laws of physics that direct it to change its state one way or the other. So there's nothing that we know of that would cause it to do that. That's why we can't predict what it's going to do. Mm-hmm. Like, we cannot predict with certainty. We can only predict statistically what it's likely to do under a certain set of conditions. If there's a multiverse, then every possibility is played out, and that gives us some sort of an explanation. Wild. So cosmologists believe that our laws of physics are set in the earliest stages of the universe, close to the moment of the Big Bang, and quantum fluctuations are responsible for another universe having slightly different physics than ours. But how do I get to the other universes? Grace, what a great segue. You're one section too early. But I love that this is where you're headed, because it's also where I'm headed. So first of all, Ben, after hearing all of this, how much is your brain exploding right now?
Yeah, a lot, but it also makes sense. Does that sound weird? Like I'm like, to me, like the universe is everywhere and all things. Like, oh man, I sound like such a fucking stoner when I start talking about this, but like, right, it's one of the reasons. I mean, it's funny that I say that because, like, I honestly do feel like hallucinogens have helped come to that realization that like we're all everything. Like everybody's made of atoms. We're all made of the same stuff, and we're all everywhere at once. And like, our form is a form that is both temporary and super fucked up and not good for what the universe is actually like. Like death is actually when we get to continue our adventure in like a really cool way, right? Because like right now we're sort of like we're doing some fun stuff, but like these bodies and these brains don't know most of what's going on out there.
It is an interesting thought. We do know that energy is always preserved, right? And there is energy inside of our bodies that dissipates once we're dead. But it has to go somewhere, right? Because energy doesn't just disappear. It's always preserved in the universe. So at least as far as we know, right? And you know what? I don't want to say too much about this because I can't remember where it came from or not. But I know that an experiment was conducted where people who were expected to die soon. So people were in hospice.
It's from Mark. This is from Mark. Oh, so go ahead. Yeah.
They were weighed right before they died and then after they died. And there was fractional differences in their weight, which, you know, obviously relates to their mass, you know, because the mass is being pulled down by the gravity on the planet Earth, which is what creates your weight, right?
Yeah, it could be a D. TBD says, isn't that energy just preserved in the heat that leaves our body?
It could be, but it's also the electrical energy of your synapses bouncing. There's electricity inside of your brain, you know? So I guess it's possible that could be sapped away in the form of heat. But again, like I said, I don't want to go too much into that because I don't actually know what I'm talking about anymore. Now we've gone off the rails a little bit.
What's interesting, I thought you were going to talk about like because it does talk about hallucinating a little bit, but about how that does help. Mark Bittman has a whole in his book about hallucinogens. There was a whole study about terminally ill patients, and they measured how anxious they were about dying, and then they gave them all psilocybin mushrooms on a very guided trip, basically, and they all, for the most part, I think it was some ridiculous number, their anxiety dropped like tenfold, because they all were like, oh, this is just a part of the journey. They were able to sort of see something or understand something or come to some sort of, I don't know, acceptance, if nothing else. Right.
It's really Ben, I don't want you to criminalize yourself, but have you ever had an experience like that?
Absolutely. I mean, never to that like extent, but yeah, I mean, 100%. I mean, mushrooms I'm in no way advocating anybody to go to take illegal drugs if they're not legal where you live. But my God, take some mushrooms, everybody. Like, seriously,
Yes.
I think you'll understand the universe a little bit better.
So, can we prove multiverse theory? It's tricky. So some scientists don't find multiverse theory to be a legitimate science because we can't verify it through experimentation, considering we can't observe these other universes. If it can't be empirically falsified, then it doesn't stand up to the usual rigorous standards of the scientific method. Others, however, say that it's just another step in a pattern of mathematical theories later being proven by observation. So, for example, Einstein's equations suggested that the universe is expanding. Einstein himself didn't believe that, but now we know, based on observations, that the universe is in fact expanding. So the theoretical math that he was doing that suggested that the universe was expanding turned out to be correct, right? We were able to confirm those mathematical theories later based on observation. I think it was about 12 years later. The same thing happened with the existence of black holes. Einstein's math suggested they existed, but he did not believe that black holes existed himself. Then the first one was observed in the 1970s. It actually took like 6 or 7 years for them to realize like what these like gravitational waves in outer space were. They first observed them in 1964, and then later in the 1970s they realized that it was a black hole, which is fucking crazy.
It's schmockers that he was so ahead of his time.
Hell yeah. Tricky. Absolutely. So theoretical physicist Brian Greene says, what scientists are doing now follows that exact same tradition. We used to think the Earth was the center of the universe, then the sun, then our galaxy. None of these things turned out to be true, right? So it follows that our universe might not be the center of the cosmos. Greene called these cosmic demotions and said we might be on the threshold of our next demotion that follows that same pattern. I love the idea that we like got demoted cosmically.
Demoted. That's such almost like a Douglas Adams thing. That feels like, I don't know if anybody has read Douglas Adams, but like he described Earth, right? It's just like a backwater, like planet in the middle of nowhere, right?
Yes, yeah. They were gonna build a highway through us.
Yeah, exactly.
Fucking hilarious. So Greene says that the math we see in quantum physics today suggests that what we thought was everything is just a small part of a larger cosmos. Fucking wild. So that totally makes sense to me. That like I get the very hard science of like, you know, if you can't empirically prove or disprove it, then it doesn't stand up and there's, you know, whatever. But that's kind of the whole point of theoretical physics, is that you come up with theories and then later, based on observation, you can decide whether they are true or not. That's what we've been doing this whole, like the past 100 years. So It makes sense that that's what we would continue doing. I don't know. So to get to Grace's question, can we visit those other universes? Probably not. Sorry. Astrophysicist Neil deGrasse Tyson, who everyone knows, who also, has questionable background. I don't know if you heard about that a few years ago. It was very disappointing to me. But anyway, described the multiverse as ships on an infinite sea. Each ship can see a horizon all around it, and that horizon, that area, is its observable universe. But no two ships observe the same horizon. We are similarly limited to our own observable universe because of the speed of light. So because we can only see like 13 billion light years away or some shit like that, or 13 to 14 billion light years away, because of the speed of light. We can't see anything farther than that. Although things will start popping in and out of, eventually we will be able to see them because the light will eventually get here. It just took 16 billion years or 17 billion years rather than, whatever. It's 14 billion and 1 rather than 13 billion and 903. So,
I gotcha.
Yeah. So, so because of that, there's no way that we would be. Yeah, Neil deGrasse Tyson is a bit of a fuckface, Adi. I absolutely agree. He drives me fine. Do not follow him on Twitter. You will not like him anymore if you follow him on Twitter. He's kind of a douche. But anyway, so Tyson says that the only way we would be able to get there is by traveling through some sort of tunnel. But it could be very dangerous because of the quantum fluctuations that we talked about earlier. So remember I was saying each universe, as it, is expanding from the Big Bang, these little quantum fluctuations create different laws of physics in each, universe. So those fluctuations could cause wildly different physics in other universes, meaning we might show up there and completely disintegrate upon entering because our biochemistry doesn't exist, or the gravity that holds atoms together doesn't exist, or there are no planets because there's no heavy metals, so there's nowhere for us to go once we get there.
Or we just open the door to hell.
Yeah, right?
I don't know if anybody's seen Event Horizon, but that's basically what happened. They literally jumped to a new thing, and then the place they jumped to was just basically hell.
Yikes.
Yeah.
That's not good. Yes, I'm
Another
sorry,
crazy
Grace.
sci-fi
It's
movie.
definitely more dangerous than staying here. Especially if you think about how rare life seems to be in our own galaxy. It seems like
it's pretty unhospitable in a lot of places out there.
Yeah, most of the universe is inhospitable in our own universe. So if we went to another universe, you have no idea what you might be walking into. So sadly, we probably won't be able to get there. Wah wah.
Take Special K, like a lot of Special K. Again, I am in no way advocating that, but I think you could get somewhere.
Yeah.
Fall in that K-hole, see what happens.
Yeah, absolutely. Abolish the Senate, excuse me. You're right. We should definitely do the Great Filter at some point. That's great. Well, maybe we'll talk about that a little bit here later because we have a little bit of time left. But anyway, so if multiverse theory is true, right? So say that it's absolutely true. It turns out we're able to observe it, and it confirms all of this, math stuff that all these physicists are talking about, right? What does that mean for us? Much like you said at the top, Ben, on a practical level, probably not very much. So good for you. Before hearing any of it, you already knew what the outcome would be. But the implications of multiverse theory are astounding. Okay, so in an infinite cosmos containing infinite other universes, everything that can possibly happen not only will happen, but must happen infinite times.
Which means it has happened.
Sure. Yeah.
I mean, that's the other side of it, right? Everything has already happened.
Absolutely.
Because we're just in a loop of doing it.
Exactly. And, again, abolish the center is also a great idea. Thank you. Thank you, Adi. I know. I pulled a Stephen Colbert. I cannot. I'm worse than him. I cannot. It's fine. The words, they jumble and they come out just, it just happens. Yeah, that's fucking crazy, right? So it's like infinities on top of infinities on top of infinities. And, like you were saying, everything that can happen actually has already happened. Well, now we're getting into time. And is time, like, the way that we perceive time, is that actually, universally true, right? Like, we observe time as running in a linear fashion from, past to future, right? From now to then. But then you get into like string theory and multiple dimensions, and then, 5th, 6th, 7th through like up to like 11 or 12 dimensions. What does time look like? And I think there are creatures in Douglas Adams' Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy that exist, that you can see them existing across time, because the way that they experience time is all at once, right? So they're like a baby and an old man, and they're like Benjamin Buttoning it all at the same time.
Does anybody feel like, I'm sure this is a theory that I don't know, but that we're not moving through time, that we're like in a fixed place and time is sort of moving around us?
Oh my.
Right? Like that we're just like molecules, or we're whatever, but we're sort of in the same place. And then it's actually like the universe that's moving, right? Because the universe is always moving.
That's true.
Is that what time is? I don't know. Who knows?
Oh man.
That's a weird fucking thought.
Huh. Well, fuck.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's some theory out there on that.
Your feet are tingling. Feet are tingling.
Nice.
So obviously, if multiple universes end up existing, right, then our worldview changes significantly. Oh, no, that's not the right one. Time is tickling them.
I mean, yes.
So astronomer Dr. Stuart Clark says that he prefers the idea of just one universe because, quote, if every possibility is played out across this huge multiverse, well, it makes our universe just a sheer accident. Which I guess to him is kind of sad. I don't know. It's also, I wanted to throw this in there, just as a little taste. It's also possible that all of this is happening on an infinitely powerful computer, running multiple simulations or experiments at the same time. This would also provide an explanation for the fluctuations in quantum physics that we don't presently understand. But that's a different episode, I feel like. That's a whole
simulation theory, yeah.
Other can of worms. Yeah. I don't know if anyone else saw this floating around on the internet, but in an experiment, they recently were able to quantumly entangle tardigrades, and I wrote down entangled tardigrades because I wanted to get to it, but I didn't have time. So, we'll talk about entangled tardigrades.
It's a real nerdy improv team.
Entangled tardigrades.
We are entangled tardigrades.
Oh, yeah.
I love it.
I know. I don't like the computer simulation theory either. That's
like don't like it because like it freaks you out. Yeah.
Yeah. And also that would like piss me off. So I was thinking recently I wanted to make a TikTok that's like that song that says like, what if God was one of us? And that, it would cut to me and I'd be like, honestly, I'd probably like beat them up. I'd probably be like, what the fuck, man? Why are you such an asshole?
It's like, was it Dogma where God was playing pinball on the beach? Like he likes to come down and play pinball just because like he's just a dude.
Well,
I like that idea.
And it can't be Dogma because in Dogma God was
Alanis Morissette.
Yeah.
Right, but I think no, because when God initially came down, he came down as an old man, and remember they beat him up, and that's why he was in the hospital in Jersey.
I don't remember. It's been way too long. The last time I watched Dogma, I was in high school.
I really like that movie. This is a quick aside. You can't get that movie on streaming anywhere because Harvey Weinstein owns it personally, and like nobody wants to like pay
Deal
for
with
the
him.
streaming rights. Yeah.
Yikes. That's too bad. Yeah, D, I agree that what's his name? Stephen, whatever his name is.
Yeah, very
Stuart
universe.
Clark. Yeah, has a very our universe centric perspective. But I do understand that, right? I do kind of understand that, like, you know, well, whatever anyone believes, but like religion in general comes out of that desire to have an understanding of the things we can't explain, right? That's what generally religion has always been born out of. And the idea that things are planned and that everything's going to be okay and that like someone's watching over and taking care of you. And to this person, Stuart Clark, you know, the idea of multiple universes kind of negates that. And personally, I don't necessarily believe in a higher power because of, you know, reasons X, Y, and Z, which I'm not going to get into. But I was actually reading a little bit about, like, you know, the implications of God if multiverse theory exists, right? And I don't think it changes. I don't think it changes at all, personally. So like, I don't think that necessarily means it is an accident. It just,
we're going to get real trippy here, but God is an equation. Like, honestly, like I do believe there's some key to unlocking the universe and understanding everything within it, but that is some equation that we cannot in any goddamn way comprehend. That's truly what I think God is. So we've created, again, right? Our brains create things to explain things that we don't know. And so, right, we are just beginning to understand how the universe is made. And back in the day, we had no fucking idea. And so it was a guy in the sky doing all this stuff, right? And we, but honestly, I do think it is an equation. Like, you look at, there are too many things in nature that make sense, right? And I suppose some would say they make sense. They didn't always make sense, but the ones that make sense have stuck around, and now they're the ones that you know, are the most populated, and so that's why it looks like it makes sense. But the golden ratio, right? There are numbers. There are things that are fucking everywhere that are like
fucking fractals.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Fractals. That shit is so crazy.
So it's like I think fucking God is math. I really do. I think God is some equation that we don't understand. And it's not even God, but like it's whatever we have called God. No, I'm not God. I've just sat around and talked about this kind of stuff a lot.
I love it. Yeah. Yeah, and so sure. God is an equation. If God's an equation, Earth is a chalkboard. I'm a physicist. You are variables.
Makes as much sense as anything else.
I suppose so. Yeah. That I mean, I don't know. I suppose that there could be like one over encompassing equation, and right, that's the theory of everything. That's like what people talk about when they say that the theory of everything is being able to explain quantum and particle and you know, the standard model of physics, like all at the same time. And so one of the things that people criticize the multiverse theory on is that it doesn't have any way of explaining the Big Bang. But the Big Bang is still a theory. You know what I mean? Like, there are things that we can use, like, you know, the background radiation of the Big Bang is observable because of whatever, and like we have a picture of it, right? But like, to me, it still doesn't stand up to that same level of like whatever they called it, empirical empirically falsification. Like, it can't be like empirically proven or disproven, right? So I don't know. And then there's like this whole other thing about universal inflation that has to do with the expansion of the universe. Like, as the Big Bang was happening, different parts of the cosmos, the universe, right, were expanding at different speeds. And while that was happening, what that caused was like different pockets of the universe, which really are their own universes that like caused those quantum fluctuations to occur.
Little pocket dimensions.
Yeah, but they're not though. They're like full universes that exist alongside our own.
What? I
mean, right, Adi, it has to. Now, the thing about the equation, it almost certainly involves numbers and operations that we don't have a concept of.
100%.
Neil deGrasse Tyson, he was saying something about this, about how like right now, the standard model of physics and quantum physics, we can't marry them together. They don't make sense together. They only make sense separately. And that's why there is that, that search for the theory of everything.
And I don't think you'll ever be able to get there. I mean, I think that's right. To do that is to ascend.
To do that is to ascend. Yeah, I suppose so. And once again, I'm brought back to that episode of Kurzgesagt about the short story called The Egg, where, it's, that same kind of like we are the universe all like experiencing whatever all at the same time. We are the universe experiencing itself, observing itself. Abolish the Senate, put something up here. Let's read it. The universe is information, and we are stationary in it, not three-dimensional and not in space or time. The information fed to us, we hypostatize into the phenomenal world. Philip K. Dick. Values.
Now, see, that's sort of the idea that I was talking about, where we are stationary and the universe happens around us as we construct it, trying to make sense of what is being put in front of us.
Could be. I think personally, I'm more comforted by the idea that everything is random. Nothing was planned. There is no God. It doesn't exist. It just like is whatever. Because if this was planned, dude, what the fuck, man? Come on. What the fuck?
Oh,
rude.
I don't think God has anything to do with like the decisions people make. We're the ones that fucked everything. The universe kind of works, I think, in a certain way that if we weren't here, the planet would go on forever.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But that's it, right? So it works.
I see what you're saying. So we're just like
we fucked it up.
But again, but again, right, then that creates a whole different worldview of God, that we're just a random thing that happened in God's creation. We were not intended, right? We're not necessarily planned. We're not special.
We're not fucking
whatevers,
special. Nope.
Right? So again,
Grace was talking about
Grace
was talking about the destruction of the ego, like on a macro level, and that's exactly it, right? Like, it's recognizing that we don't fucking matter at all, and that's not a bad thing. Like that's great, but like, right? Like we don't matter in the grand scale of the universe. Insignificance. So
yes. Yeah, benevolent nihilism is like how I like to think of it. Benevolent nihilism.
Yeah, I like that.
Nothing matters, but that's okay.
Yeah, exactly. It's not supposed to matter.
Right.
Like we fucking beat our head against the wall trying to make it matter. And we're like, why? It's not fucking supposed to matter.
Right.
And that freaks people out, right? But to me, it's such a freeing concept more than freaking me out.
I think so. I mean, but I do understand why people are like, because then there's no one looking out for you. You know what I mean? That's like the comforting thing about religion is that there's someone looking out for you all the time. Even if you don't understand what they're doing it for the greater good of you or society or the world or whatever. And then when you strip that away, it's like, well, shit. Anything could happen at any time for any reason, for no reason. There's no reason.
Didn't that get perverted to a certain point? Because like all of a sudden now nobody's looking out for you because we're our fellow man trying to look out for you. You're looking out for you because the imaginary man in the sky tells you there's an imaginary reward for you when you die if you are nice to this person. Like,
and
I think it almost diminishes the power that we actually have.
Indeed.
Like, I think it takes away our personal
responsibility.
It takes away our personal responsibilities
to take care of each other.
Bingo.
Absolutely. And that is one of the several reasons why I personally believe that religion is dangerous.
It made sense at a time, I think, when we needed it, and then we never. Bill Hicks has a whole great thing. Bill Hicks is a comedian who passed away in the 90s, and a lot of people like him a lot. And he has a whole thing about religion never evolved. Like, it was created, and then it hasn't evolved along with the rest of time and the rest of people. Like, there's and then it needs to.
Yeah, absolutely. As TVOD says, this is correct.
Yeah.
Well, Ben, it is 12:57, and now that everyone's brains have turned to goo, is there, is there anything else, anywhere else that people in the audience might be able to find you? Not
Monday
quantumly,
nights,
but
Monday nights I do a show here on 2MB called Grand Friend Auto, yeah, I think. Where I hang out and watch.
Oh no, Friend Theft Auto. It's Friend Theft Auto.
That makes more sense. Friend Theft Auto. I'm crushing it. Where I watch people play Grand Theft Auto and hang out with some friends and just have a good time. And then Union Comedy. Come see a live comedy show in a few weeks when it's safe to do so again. We're in Somerville. Check us out online, unioncomedy.com. And maybe I'll do another show where I just would people. I'm not going to do this. Would people like it if I ate mushrooms and just came on here and talked, and we could all just hang out? And you'd all have to eat mushrooms too, but on your own. And then I don't know. What a crazy idea that would be.
Let's not endorse or not endorse that right now. We will. We'll think about that. We'll talk to legal. And we will come back to that.
We could just talk about whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll get all crazy.
Where
can people find you, Jess?
You can also be beyond the Midnight Creepout, which will our second episode of this month will be on the 28th at midnight. So technically it will be on my birthday because my birthday is the 29th. So the 28th at midnight. I don't know what we're going to talk about yet. I got my little list here. But I don't know. What should we cover next? You can tell us in the Discord, which I just shared under the name 2MB Studios in the chat on Twitch and YouTube. So if you click that link, you should be able to join our Discord and start a discussion under the Midnight Creepout tab on the side. If you like looking at this face, and let's be honest, who doesn't like looking at this face?
Who doesn't?
This eyeliner is on fleek. I have another show called Simpress Me on Mondays at 7:30, which actually occurs right before Friend Theft Auto. It leads right into it. So Monday nights, action-packed right here on 2MB Studios. You can watch Simpress Me. My guest this week is Grace. She will be Grace Elin for the win in the chat right now. She will be giving me some sort of challenge to do in The Sims, and I have to Simpress her. Yes, Grace. And then right after that, you should definitely tune in to Friend Theft Auto. So obviously, you got to come back on the 28th. We're going to have something fun to talk about. Join the Discord. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Become a patron on Patreon. Why not? Look us up. Give us all your money. And, without any further ado, Ben, audience, we hope you had fun. We hope that you come back. But most of all, we hope you're
creeped out. We nailed that one.
Okay, we'll get there someday. Okay, bye.